All right, let's jump right into this explainer. I was digging through some source material on this ancient Roman concept called Vivere Militare, and man, it is an incredibly fiery, intense breakdown. In Latin, it translates roughly to live is to soldier. To put that into plain, everyday English, it means life isn't a luxury cruise, It's a shift, and you gotta show up for it. The Stoics really understood something that our modern, hyper-comfortable society just kind of tries to forget, that hardship isn't some glitch or mistake. It's literally the job description.
This brings us to a really hard-hitting quote from Epictetus. He asks, "Do you not know that life is a soldier's service?" Now think about who is actually saying this. Epictetus wasn't some guy born with a silver spoon in his mouth. He was a former slave who eventually became this legendary teacher whose mindset actually influenced kings. He didn't mean we need to go grab a sword and literally march off to war. What he meant was that every single human being is stationed somewhere by fate. We didn't get to pick our era or our family or our raw circumstances, right? But we are stationed there and we have to face whatever difficulty comes with that post.
So what's the modern, casual translation of this whole epic concept? It's pretty simple. Life is hard, show up anyway. Think about it. A soldier doesn't get to choose if it rains or if the mud is deep, but that soldier absolutely gets to choose their posture in that weather. We choose whether to keep our feet moving. In real life, we don't choose the economy or sudden illnesses or the completely unfair things that happen to us out of nowhere. But we and only we choose our posture. We choose whether our minds collapse or if they stand firm. So to help us actually apply this, we're going to have a structured, casual chat through 5 practical ideas of Stoic action. We'll be looking at guarding your mind, controlling the controllable, doing the work, training under pressure, and finally, the daily code. So let's just get right into the first one. Starting us off with idea 1, guard your mind. We usually think the most important battlefield in our lives is out there in the world, right? In the office, the marketplace, or the economy. But Stoicism tells us the very first, most critical battlefield is actually your inner citadel, because if we lose the battle in our own heads, any victory on the outside is totally fragile. I actually found it fascinating how the sources frame this. The real enemies aren't foreign armies. They're the notifications blowing up our phones, an appetite we just can't govern, random outbursts of anger, gossip, bad habits. If we can't control our attention, advertisers and screens are going to control it for sure. If we can't control our anger, well, every single person who insults us has us on a leash. The source material puts it pretty bluntly. A person who lacks self-command is literally occupied territory. We might live in a free country, but if a simple phone notification totally derails our discipline, are we actually free? Moving on to idea 2, control the controllable. This brings us to what you could call the brutal mercy of Stoicism. It's the practice of knowing exactly what is ours to manage and utterly ignoring the rest of the whole shebang. The Stoic soldier basically divides the world into 2 totally distinct territories. Territory 1 is our stuff, our efforts, our discipline, our courage, our honesty. Territory 2 is the stuff that isn't ours, what other people think of us, getting older, the stock market, sheer luck. Let me tell you, wasting your strength trying to control Territory 2 is the absolute quickest path to total exhaustion. You can't negotiate with the weather, and you can't force the crowd to love you. You just have to stick to guarding Territory 1. So how does a Stoic actually live this out day to day? Well, they aren't passive. They don't just sit on the couch while the world burns around them. The Stoic soldiers still act, they train, they build, they fight. But, and this is a huge but, they do it without worshiping the outcome. We can put in the absolute best effort at our jobs or in our relationships, but we cannot let the final verdict of fortune poison our peace of mind. The effort is ours, the final results, not so much. Which brings us right into idea 3, do the work. Look, Stoic discipline isn't about sitting in some quiet room thinking super deep philosophical thoughts. It's highly practical. It's about executing your daily duties, like sweeping the floor, writing a totally boring report, or parenting a difficult toddler, and doing it without whining. The source material has a really hard-hitting quote for this. It says, "A life is not destroyed in one dramatic collapse. It is often dissolved by 10,000 little desertions." Man, that is powerful. We always worry about some massive disaster ruining our lives, but character is usually lost through tiny, boring compromises. Just one more wasted hour, one more broken promise to ourselves, one more excuse we polish up until it sounds reasonable. So here are a few of those modern desertions we all kind of fall for. Constant complaining, which really just trains your brain to feel helpless. Gossiping, which is basically junk food for the mind. Unconscious time wasting, like just scrolling away hours of our lives. or buying into debt disguised as identity, like buying luxury things you absolutely don't need just to look a certain way. It's pretty wild to think about, but you really have to guard your money, your time, and the companions you choose to march with, because the people around us make our standards either rise or fall. Okay, let's hit idea number 4, train under pressure. We can't just read about this stuff, right? We have to actually do hard things on purpose. Why? So that when real hardship inevitably hits us, it doesn't meet us as a total stranger. Philosophy is totally useless if it's just decoration for a bookshelf. The true Stoic classroom isn't some fancy university lecture hall. It's the infuriating traffic jam. It's the heated argument with a partner. It's the unpaid bill and the sleepless night. The true test of our character isn't how we act when we're perfectly rested and everything is going our way. It's how we conduct ourselves when we are tired, insulted, or stuck in a highly stressful situation. I actually loved this part of the sources. To prep for those rough moments, they suggest running these really simple, straightforward drills for the soul. Fast from luxuries every now and then. Sit in silence. Put your phone in a completely different room. Finish a project at work without begging everyone for applause. And when you face a minor inconvenience, practice just carrying it quietly without announcing it to the whole world. Because true peace isn't about avoiding storms. It's about being a trained captain at the wheel when that storm hits. And that leads us to our final pillar, idea 5, the daily code. This is where we translate all this intense, ancient philosophy into a highly practical daily operating system for our lives today. Okay, so in the morning, rise before your excuses even have time to get organized. Make the bed, move your body, and tackle the absolute hardest task first. Midday, guard your tongue and your attention. Don't drift. When conflict hits, pause before answering. Just ask yourself what is actually in your control. And in the evening, review the day like a commander reviewing a battlefield. Where did you stand firm, and where did you kind of desert your post? What I really love about this is that it shouldn't be dramatic or theatrical. Drama is usually just ego wearing armor. Character is built stone by stone under the weight of repetition. We all want some massive, magical transformation, but the reality is, greatness actually appears as small, boring promises kept on a random Tuesday when absolutely no one else cares. And we have to ground all of this in one unavoidable fact, memento mori. Remember, you will die. Now, the text uses this not to be depressing or dark, but to provide ultimate clarity. Death is the final commander that dismisses every single soldier. We don't know when the order is coming, which means we need to stop wasting time hating what doesn't matter. It's a trumpet blast telling us to wake up. The campaign has already started. Which leaves us with this final, provocative challenge to wrap up our explainer today. Life is going to throw wind, hunger, insults, and loss at us. We are stationed at our posts. When your final hour comes, will you have deserted yourself through 1,000 little compromises? Or will you stand, take command of your inner citadel today?